Hello, Yearly Meeting 2022. I am Pete Fowler, the lead of the Church Health Team. With me is Ed Walsh, the Director of Church Health for EFCER, and we are here to bring you our Church Health Team report. And I want to start out by saying how incredible it's been for me to look back at the beginnings of the Church Health Team during the revisioning process and things that we hoped we would be able to do. I remember that the big stress for us was we wanted to set ourselves up as a resource that would be proactive and not just reactive, that we would be able to go to churches and allow them to become strong before challenges come instead of just trying to help navigate challenges as they arise. And I just got to tell you that I'm so excited about the fact that we are doing these things. We are offering training for elders and church leaders on things like servant leadership and managing conflict and healthy relationships between pastoral staffs and other leaders in the church. We're doing SWOT analysis. We're helping to, alongside leadership team, mentor young pastors who are moving into existing churches. We're walking alongside existing churches that identify a need to change a direction and go a new route for the sake of the call of the gospel in their community. So I'm just really excited about the ways that the Church Health Team has grown, and I know that we still have some growing to do and that God has a lot in store for us yet. Speaking of some of the things that we are offering, there are 8 resources and tools that are listed under the Church Health Team report in your delegate packet. And so at this time, I'm going to ask Ed to share a little bit about those with us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Pete. I'm really glad that we can do it. We have been trying to identify and compile and put together just a number of resources and tools that are helpful, and sometimes we try it and they don't necessarily work, but other times we say, yeah, that thing is a really helpful tool. So because we know that each church has unique needs, also that they have different challenges, and so we've identified specific tools that would help in specific situations. And so we want you to hear from at least 2 folks here. Ed Vinson held an elder training in Virginia, and also with the Alliance staff, we're going to hear from Pastor Russ Gum as well. And so let's listen to their reports.
I would like to thank Dave Mercandanti and the Leadership Development Team for coming all the way to Richmond, Virginia, and doing a elder training event at our church. We had 5 churches represented from the Virginia district and over 40 participants, and they did a fantastic job. Dave did a talk on vision and servanthood, and Ed Walsh did one on handling church conflict, and Kenny Hagan and Dave did workshops. Kenny's, which I attended, was on the pastor-elder relationship. It was all very good and very helpful. Then we had a great meal, which Colby Schartzer provided the barbecue, and our hospitality team put together everything else. We had great worship, great fellowship together, and a lot of good learning. I would highly recommend you having the leadership development team come to your church and do this elder training event. Thank you.
A couple of months ago at Alliance Friends, we took our staff to a planning retreat where we began to talk about the future and where we could go, and really talked about who we are and what we're accomplishing. One of the segments that we did, we had Ed Walsh come down and talked us through the SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I found this was probably one of the more important, one of the more helpful segments that we did at the retreat as we began to really do some honest evaluation. I think it's important that a staff and a church really does evaluate their strengths, their weaknesses, their opportunities, and their threats. What was interesting to me was that we found it very easy to talk about our strengths. We talked about our opportunities, we talked about our threats, but the weaknesses are really where I wanted to focus on. And we talked about some of those weaknesses because I think that out of that, we were able to really begin to grow and begin to understand that there are some things that we can work on. And I would encourage any church to really think about bringing Ed in to do a SWOT analysis and just to focus in on where they're at. I think that's important, but I think more importantly, where we're going. And you can't do that without knowing what your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats are. And so again, I just want to thank Ed for coming and being a part of that and for helping us work through that and to experience that in a fresh and new way for us. was extremely helpful. I think we're still benefiting from the results of that, and we're still growing and learning more about how to best use the resources that we have.
So if you and your church might be interested in something like training for elders or a SWOT analysis or some of the other things that Ed's going to talk about in a bit, please just reach out to the office in Canton, make contact with this guy, and we will get some things set up to help you out. Because the church is not done growing. We are continuing to follow that call to build healthy churches that have healthy disciples that make healthy disciples. One thing that's true, though, is that, and I know all of you know this, our churches are not the same today that they were in February of 2020. Our world in the last 2 years plus has changed pretty drastically, and I think sometimes there is the desire to think we just need to get back to the way things were. Well, newsflash, we're never going back to the way things were. It's simply not possible. We're not able to go backwards in time. Too much has changed. We can only go forward together. Our churches aren't the same. The world is not the same. We can deny it. We might disagree with it. We might try and fight against it, but it's simply a reality that so much has changed in the last couple years. And now we have to ask the question, what do our churches do to respond to this new reality, to live into this new calling, this new mission field, and be healthy churches in the midst of it?
And that's why we are strongly encouraging your church to do the church health survey. I know we've been advocating this and encouraging this over the years, but I look at the church health survey as what I call the great revealer. Now, personally, in January, I have a great revealing moment, and it's when I get on the scale. And unfortunately, it reveals how much lack of willpower I have whenever I'm confronted with a tray of Christmas cookies.
Oh, amen.
So that scale, it defines my current reality. Well, the church health survey, it works like that scale. It reveals your current reality. It gives you an accurate picture of where you're at today. It provides a framework for future ministry. And the goal isn't that we get some number. They take all those numbers and they say, here's the average churches is 50, and maybe you're a 60, 70, or maybe you're a 40 or 30. But the goal isn't the number. The goal is to give that foundation for the next steps of ministry. Now, the good news again is that cost is $260, but Eastern Region will cover half of that cost. We are committed to just providing these resources, and a number of our churches have just discovered that this really gives them a good picture of where they're at and where they need to go.
Yeah, which is really great because you can't really get where you want to go until you know where you're actually coming from. So another fantastic tool, and another one that exists that we sort of oversee on the church health team are these missional engagement grants. These are grants that we offer to churches who have ideas for ways that they want to engage with and intersect with and serve their communities, but they don't quite have the resources to get it done. And we have grants that are available up to $500 per church. So if you have an idea about something that would be really great for your communities, a way to missionally engage those around you, nearby to your congregation, we want to help. And to give you an example of that, we want you to listen to Dan Kale as he talks about how this missional engagement grant worked for his church.
Hi everyone, I'm Dan Kale. I'm the lead pastor of Friends Church in Hughesville, Pennsylvania, and I've been asked to give you a brief testimonial about our experience with the missional engagement grant offered by the church health team. By 2019, our church had already developed an online presence and an online campus. When COVID struck, and obviously with the aftermath of that, all of our churches have struggled with how to do online ministry better than we've done it in the past. One of my struggles was that I wanted to do ministry with our online campus that included discipleship. And that meant going far beyond just Sunday morning worship, recorded and put onto our Facebook page or our YouTube page. So we started asking the question, how can we bring people at home into a classroom with us where live people are gathered in a way that makes that appealing and special? And give me a second. Voila! What you see is what we did. We invested in new technology. This camera is called a Meeting Owl, and it's a 360-degree camera, picks up the entire room. It has a 360-degree microphone that reaches out about 20 feet into the room, and a 360-degree speaker so that everyone can hear. With this, it allows us to bring people at home into this classroom with us. Rather than looking at one face on one camera in a laptop, they're looking at the entire classroom. When someone speaks around the room, they get brought out into a box that looks just like the one that you're seeing me in right now, and does a close-up on them while they're speaking. So this allows us to engage people in a much deeper way in our virtual campus. People like Lindsay, who's a young woman who's bedbound, who's not been able to come to church with us for the last couple of years, was feeling really isolated. Lindsay now joins us on Sunday mornings and on Wednesday nights through this Meeting Owl and through this technology. It allows her to interact with other people in the classroom, not just with me as the teacher. Carlton, who's a good friend of mine in Jamaica, he joins us on Wednesday nights for Bible study from his house in Duncans Bay, Jamaica. So we now have an international presence as well as just in our community. This technology has been fantastic. I just want to say thank you to the Church Health Team and to EFCER for being partners with us in distributing and sending out the gospel here in central Pennsylvania. Thank you so much. If you have questions about the technology or about how we use it, don't hesitate to stop me. I'm here at Yearly Meeting with you. I'm there in person. You won't have to get me virtually. So look me up. I'll keep the camera on for you.
Wow, that's fantastic, Dan. Thanks so much for sharing about what you did there at Hughesville. You know, there's other resources that are listed that we mentioned that they're in the delegate packet. It's like this blue circle of different things that are highlighted. And so a few that I would just want to emphasize again are the mission, vision, and value weekend training that we offer for the leadership of the church. And so just clarifying your mission, but especially what is the unique vision that God has given for your church? He's not called you to be someone else. He's called you to have with your unique giftings, how to reach your community. So that is a very helpful opportunity, and it helps just clear the fog. And then the next part of that is what we call the Ministry Action Plan. And Dave Mercandante has been working with us on helping the leaders. He has a great tool. I call it the 1414 plan. Actually, he calls it that. And if you want to know what the 1414 plan is, you're going to have to sign up. So that's the teaser that I'm giving you. And then finally, our churches, a number of them have been updating their bylaws. And I just want to say, number one, don't be intimidated by that project of bylaws. If you need to tweak them or review them, it does not need to be an overwhelming task. And one of the reasons is I will be glad to help you. I have a template to help you work through what are things that are essential. These are going to be in everybody's bylaws, and then what's unique for you. And so just really try to help you work through that. So, and as part of Eastern Region's due diligence, we are asking that your church send us a copy of your bylaws. If you could send that to our office by September 30th, that would be very helpful. If you still need to work on yours, then I'll be glad to come and help you on those as well. But we want to be a resource for you as we minister and partner together.
And one part of our church health report is always includes when circumstances in our local congregations dictate that the church health team needs to provide some extra oversight via the 305C part of our faith and practice. And we have just a few churches that have been going through that process of additional oversight. In March, Eastern Region took this action at Mansfield Friends, and so we are just getting off the ground with that assistance and oversight. We are still doing it with North Star and West Park Friends. That's been going on for a while, and we are making some great progress. The goal is in all of those circumstances that each church will be put back to a foundation of health to the point that they can be successfully self-governing again. And this process that Ed is working with these churches in is really getting us closer and closer to that end. And really, keeping the end in mind is critical. The purpose, the end purpose of Eastern Region is to equip healthy churches to make healthy disciples. And that's what we want to do. That's why we are offering all these tools and all this time and everything that we have at our disposal, because we believe that God still is calling our local churches to grow and make disciples and to grow those disciples into healthy local church communities. We are continually confident that he who began a good work in you, in us, will continue that work until the day of Christ Jesus. It is an absolute joy to serve you, to serve our churches, and that is the conclusion of our Church Health Team report.